Welcome to Next of Kin, the podcast. I'm your host Emma, a British expat, toddler mum and business owner living in Dubai. Join me for candid conversations about expat motherhood, business and everything in between. I've invited some incredible guests to join me this season who you are really going to want to know about. So let's jump straight in. Guys, I've just realised that this is my first solo episode this year and it's August. I did have my birth story episode in March, but that's not really the same as it. That did really well, actually. It's so funny that these unexpected episodes do so well. But it's not really a solo, catch-up kind of episode, is it? So I feel rusty. I feel really rusty. I'm used to interviewing now. But I do want to just have a little friendly chat with you to end this season 3. Because a lot has happened since December. Let's start with my trip to Oman. I pretty much just got back from a weekend trip to Oman. And it was an adventure, so learn from our mistakes or let's just have a laugh at my expense with this little story time to start off the episode. We were actually considering a trip to Salalah in August as our main summer holiday this year. We still haven't been to Oman at all and we've lived in Dubai for 4.5 years and it's so close by. But instead we ended up flying back to the UK very last minute and we were there for a month. So we kind of written off our summer holiday this year, even though every year we say we're not going back to the UK, we're actually going to have a holiday. Does anyone else have this? If you're an expat abroad, your life is the holiday and then you go back to reality when you go back to your home country. I literally have not had a proper holiday apart from staycations or visiting people in, probably since COVID time, definitely not since Bonnie's been around. Anyway, Rich needed to do a little border run because he's starting a new job. So we had to look at flights to Salalah to see if we could still do that. And it was insanely expensive. It was just getting a bit silly, really, for a weekend trip. So I started to look at other options and I noticed that it was actually looking to be 10 degrees cooler than Dubai on the coast of Oman. And I'm not recommending this, by the way, but I'm not recommending that you go to the coast. Trust me, because it might have been 10 degrees cooler, but it was so humid that I would prefer to be in 10 degrees hotter. So yeah, look at the humidity, please. Don't be like me. Learn from that mistake, number 1. Although I could recommend Jabal Akbar instead. It's a bit further, but it's still drivable. And being up the mountains, it makes it so much cooler. Although, why am I recommending a road trip at all? It was ridiculous. Don't do a road trip. Just fly. But our thought process at the time was just to do a simple 3 to 4 hour road trip to the Oman coast. And in fact, we'll stop over at Hatta Fort Hotel, which has loads of deals on. So that didn't cost much. And neither did the hotel in Oman. Simple, what a lovely little low cost road trip. But no. Next time we'll definitely just fly to Oman. Hatta Fort Hotel is fabulous, lovely. I really want to go back in winter to make the most of it. But in summer, the surrounding mountains there, you would think up the mountains in Dubai is cooler, but those mountains just lock in the heat and it's actually 3 degrees hotter than Dubai. So we really could not do much there at all. Anyway, our real trouble start at the border. Our car is on a bank loan like most people have here, and I had vaguely heard of needing a bank NOC to cross the border. So Rich actually went to the bank beforehand to get one, and they basically said, no, we don't do them. But they also did the whole brother, I've done that trip so many times. I've never been asked for an NOC. I've never heard of anyone being asked for an NOC. You don't need it. And that's from the bank person. So, okay, naively, off we go. We had sorted the insurance. That's another thing you've got to think about. We've got that already. I think you can actually just pay for that at the border, but ours was fine. We didn't have to do that. And it won't take you long to guess what I'm going to tell you, but the first thing they ask for at the border is an NOC. And it was a big fat no to being able to take that car across without it. So we're there trying to figure out what to do. At the very least, at that point, we're thinking maybe Rich could just do a border run in a taxi. You definitely can't walk it. But then the border person says, let me call a taxi for you and see if they'll take you. And we are like, okay, well, could you also ask them how much it be to take us all the way to our hotel that's another 2.5 hours away at that point? And they come back saying 500 dirhams, which to me seems pretty cheap. So yeah, great, like let's do this. Obviously, it all feels very sketchy when this taxi arrives. It takes about 45 minutes for the taxi to turn up, and we are just sat there at the border. And we have to then go and find somewhere to leave our car. We tried at the hotel and they were not having it. Like, they literally put the barriers down and was like, you're not getting out until you go and get that car. And our car was actually being quite temperamental at that point. So yeah, we were trying to think like, this is a good thing. We're dodging a bullet. Our car would probably have just broken down in Oman or something. But we leave the car up the mountain in some random car park and all get into this very dodgy feeling taxi. This taxi driver is like stopping to chat constantly. We do get through the border, but like he's stopping every 5 minutes. He's on his phone, like he's literally looking at his phone more than he's looking at the road. And as we get through the border, the first place you see is a petrol station, and he pulls over, and my heart is going because I was just so worried because we see that there's literally another taxi with a family, with a child, and the taxi driver's kicking that family out in the middle of nowhere at this 40-something degree heat up this mountain. And they're approaching our driver, and I see them talking. They're talking for like a good 10 minutes. And I think we're about to get turfed out in the mountains with a toddler. I just feel awful. I just felt like really guilty as a mum for bringing Bonnie through that, you know. But luckily that did not happen. But they kept looking in. They kept like pointing to us. I'm like, I'm not getting out of this taxi. I was like this close to having a panic attack at that point. But we got there. We even had those dodgy things on the way where the driver's like, oh, this is further than I thought. And I was like, oh God, what's going to happen? He stopped to get like some lunch and didn't say anything. It was just, yeah, it was one of those. But we got there. And when we get there, we obviously ask him to take us back on Sunday. He agrees. We think that's it. I'll cut the story short a bit because this is dragging on. But the hotel was just very meh and just not really worth it at all. So yeah, long story short, he did not take us back. We actually got a taxi to Muscat Airport and flew from Muscat to Dubai, where me and Bonnie then got a taxi back home, and Rich had to take a taxi all the way back to Hatta to collect the car. We were sure the car wasn't going to even start, but it did. So yeah, that's our little adventure to Oman. We should have just flown. We should have just flown to Muscat, actually, all along, not down the coast. There was nothing there. And obviously because we were planning to have the car, we thought we'd do little stops along the way and all of this. Instead, we were just stuck at this hotel, which was pretty, yeah, I guess it was just bog standard. There was nothing. We're spoiled, aren't we? We're spoiled in Dubai. So yeah, we should have gone to Muscat, explored Muscat a bit, stayed at a nice hotel there, because we spent the same as we would on return flights on the single flight back anyway. But you just think that a road trip is going to be less hard work than flying, don't you? Especially with a toddler. But yeah. Anyway, learn from our mistakes. Basically, don't do it as a road trip unless you own your car outright. And I would say as well, I don't think rental companies often allow you over either. So yeah. Moving on from our road trip-ish adventure, let's really catch up. Where should we start? Bonnie, I guess let's start with Bonnie. She will be 3 in a couple of months, and she's still just fabulous Bonnie as always. Since potty training, I definitely feel so far out of that baby stage. She's really a proper little girl now, especially because her speech and her understanding are really good. The start of this year felt quite difficult because we sent her back to the nursery that she had been at for 6 months, but she actually hadn't been at for the last 6 months prior. So it just didn't go well at all. It didn't go well. She didn't settle. It wasn't the right place. It wasn't the right place. It was such an overstimulating environment, and there was always music blasting, like nursery rhymes blasting. As soon as you walk in there, it's just like a wall of overstimulation that you're handing her over to. And especially with Bonnie's personality, it was just not good. They didn't get her at all. She was lasting maybe an hour, 2 hours, twice a week. in the end, we decided to move her, and the next term we chose a nursery that I have visited so many times by that point. I actually had visited there when I was pregnant, and I had chose it as her nursery before this new one had actually just opened closer. And after just one terrible morning, I stopped by this new nursery and I was just totally at my wit's end. And I spoke to the lovely lady there who just really heard me. She sort of watched Bonnie, told me it wasn't an issue with her, because at that point I'm starting to worry, like, why can't she settle there if the other children are fine? I even messaged Claire from the Now and Next Club, who I want to give a big shout out to here. She's an expert in inclusion and child development. And funnily enough, her son goes to the nursery that Bonnie's now at. I didn't realise that at the time, but she was like, trust me, send her there, give it a go. They're good. And the question mark I had over this new nursery was that it was so small. Like, she'd be moving from somewhere that had a library, a sensory room, soft play, role play, like all these different rooms and all this different equipment and facilities. But I've definitely learnt my lesson there not to be sucked in by the facilities and equipment. It's a lesson that I've actually taken through into my school search for her. And it's all about the teachers. Really, that's what it comes down to. And guess what? She loves this new nursery. So I've now put her in 5 mornings a week, which feels huge, because up until then, my work had to take such a backseat. I mean, if I'm getting 1, 2, 3 hours of childcare a week, how do I keep a brand alive? I was very much just doing the superficial things and making sure I'm still visible on socials, but I just didn't have the time to do anything deeper, to strategize or design, or even adding new brands to the website was something that I was having to do when Bonnie had gone to bed, and we all know she's not the best sleeper, so that's hard in itself. But actually, let's go back to that point on the schools for a moment, because searching for a school became my entire personality at the start of this year. I think I toured maybe upwards of 15 schools, maybe 15, 20 schools, which is ridiculous. I know it's ridiculous, but we're probably not going to be living where we currently are long term. So I was looking at all locations all over Dubai, and then we can kind of decide where we want to live from the school from there. But funnily enough, I seem to have my heart set on one school, which is the closest to where we are now. And I've even applied now. So the next round is the meetup, the assessment. They say they don't call it assessments, but it's just an assessment, isn't it? But it's that round where you then get your offers. And then we should know, I guess, by the end of the year where she's actually going to be going. And if she does get into our current first choice, I think we'll actually want to send her from FS1, so next September. She's an October baby, but we'll definitely want to send her from FS1 just to make sure we actually get into that school. Luckily, though, being an October baby and a little girl who's so talkative and she loves all that like academic-y stuff anyway, I think she'll love it. I think she's going to be so, so ready. And I know there's a lots of parents where my heart goes out to you, because you're probably in this situation where you really want to get them into that school. So you probably should send them from FS1, but they're just not ready. I mean, if they're not potty trained in time, like they can't really go. Like these kind of things. If they're an August baby, that's so young, isn't it? It's so young. But if you're interested in all these things, schooling, then go back and listen to my episode with Lauren Brennan. She was a fantastic guest. She's an expert. She's from Key Global, and that's been a really popular episode. For those of you listening from the UK and wondering more about like the schooling system here, yes, it is all private. It's all private paid for schools for the expats. And when it comes to the quality of schools, I personally was blown away, but I'm obviously coming from like a state school background in the UK. So I hear people say that they don't compare to like the top private schools in the UK and nowhere near, but Bonnie would not be going to those anyway. So I'll be really happy if I get to give her an education here. Right, let's get into career and everything work-wise for me, because at the moment I'm in that feeling like I'm about to make a big shift, and it's one of the reasons that now seems like a good time to take a little podcast break whilst I get to grips with everything with my new life and stepping into Bonnie being in nursery 5 mornings a week, Rich starting his new job. So things are looking a bit different from when I last spoke to you. Of course, I still work on next of kin, and I'm still definitely trying to dodge having to get an actual proper job. for sure. But I just haven't been able to prioritize it for the last year in the way that I was beforehand. And yeah, that comes down to the lack of childcare and also the lack of resources and funds and what I thought I was going to be able to put into the company. We've had so many other challenges that money has had to be filtered elsewhere, just, like living expenses and things like that. I also don't have a toddler who will just let me work whilst they independently play. And I want to point this out because I don't want you to be fooled by what you might see claimed online, because I don't know a single person who has that kind of toddler that would do that. So since she started a new nursery, that's been a real big pivot, and I've slowly been able to get into starting working again. But something that I haven't spoken about on here is my freelancing, which I started probably at the beginning of the year now, and is something that I'm actually planning to take a lot more on in September. I actually want to emphasize this point of having an income that isn't my brand. I've listened to quite a few different podcasts with entrepreneurs who have brands lately, and something that really stood out to me was this common thing of not taking a salary from their brand for a very long time. I can't remember who it was, but it was somewhere with, I think it was a swimwear brand on Grace Beverly's podcast. And the brand is huge, massive, been around for 5 years, I think it was, 3 or 5 years. I'm not sure, but the founder said on the podcast she still hasn't taken a single penny, a single bit of money out of that business. So that's not a business failing as well. Let's make that point. That's not a business failing. It's doing great. But there's always just so much more to invest in, especially with a product brand. You've obviously got the product side of things. And if you know me on my personal Instagram, you'll know that I spent 25,000 dirhams just on trade license related matters this year. So yeah, there are just so many big expenses. I was voice noting my friend this morning actually saying that when it comes to next of kin and the growth, I just know there's so much I want to invest in. I want to invest in design, new stock. I'd love to do the website. I'd love to do more events. I'd love to, what else I know I need to push, meta ads and stuff. And I just, all of that needs resources to start with, doesn't it? So if you are listening to this and you're really feeling down or feeling like you're failing because you're not paying yourself from your brand, especially like a product brand, just know that seems to be very, very normal. Actually, before I move on from that point, I even listened to a podcast with Jo Malone. Was she speaking to Rochelle Humes? Could be. I just really connected with this episode with Jo Malone. I thought she was fabulous. And she mentioned on it that while setting up, I think it was Jo Loves, not Jo Malone, because she sold Jo Malone and then set up Jo Loves, but she took on freelance work. She actually was the one who developed the Zara perfumes, which was a side gig for her to then be able to keep going and be able to continue with Jo Loves. So what I'm trying to say is shout out here to anyone listening who is balancing a brand and other work, or listening and feeling like they're failing because they are not paying themselves much, or wondering whether it would be failing to take on other work. Absolutely not. I'm doing the same. I'm freelancing, and I found that I really enjoyed it. And having this experience as a brand owner has then really helped me with the freelance side of things. I'm not sure I would be a very good freelancer if I hadn't set up Next of Kin to start with. So I'm really enjoying it, and I am really excited to continue and take on more clients. Of course, the struggle here is the busyness of fitting it all together and still, working, doing different freelance projects and keeping Next of Kin pushing forwards and squeezing that all into 5 mornings a week. For me, 5 mornings a week seem massive because I haven't had that really before for a long time, but it's still not that much time, is it? I also want to try and prioritize looking after myself, and I've just been to a Reformer Pilates class this morning, and then I just feel bad because that's taken, I guess, an hour and a half, 2 hours by the time I've showered and got ready out of my time that I could be working. So if you want to see how I get on with this and trying to balance it all, go and follow me on my personal Instagram, because I want to be a bit more honest and real with you over there. My personal Instagram is @emmacoulter.insta if you want to see how I'm getting on with all of this. But let's move on from the professional side and talk more about motherhood and how it feels now that I'm coming up to 3 years postpartum. And I want to say postpartum because I want to reassure everyone that it's taken me probably 2 years to feel like me again, which is very, very normal. That's also when things started to get back to normal for me hormonally. And sometimes I wonder if I missed out by not having like 2 under 2, but I actually literally didn't ovulate in that time. So that wouldn't have happened. So I wonder if that's as well why it took me longer. But did it take me longer? I think a lot of people tell me it takes that long to go back to feeling like yourself. I'm pretty sure as well my body did that for a reason because Bonnie was so needy. My body was being very well used. It was like, we cannot have any more babies. You do not have the capacity, the strength, the health to do that at the moment. So yes, I will also admit that I'm very much thinking about number 2 at the moment. And I'm very grateful that I have Bonnie. If she's our lot, then I'm still a very lucky mum. But I do think I'd regret not having another. So it's very on my mind at the moment. But again, don't put me on baby watch because it's not immediate. I want to get other things like the work and other things sorted before we move on to baby number 2. But let's stay on this topic of postpartum because now that I'm nearly 3 years in, I just can't believe that we ever put that 6-week time frame on it. Was everyone else told that 6 weeks postpartum you can start getting back to being you again and like going to the gym and doing everything normally? Because I just don't know, like there was nothing about being 6 weeks postpartum that felt like a milestone in any of those sort of ways. I definitely wasn't able to go back to the gym or anything like that. Where does that even come from? If we talk about the body image side of things, I was one of those that had a super greedy baby, and I did find that I lost a lot of weight just by breastfeeding. So I'm struggling more with weight and body image now than when I was freshly postpartum. And I feel like I have a bit of a glow up on the cards. Like I need to get I don't want to say bounce back and all those horrible words, but that I can get back to feeling better in my body now. And I'm like 3 years postpartum, not thinking about this 6 weeks on, you know? But I think I'm approaching that all a bit differently nowadays. I don't have like the capacity for diets or caring about calorie counting. Like, at what point do I have time to weigh my food? And I definitely don't ever want Bonnie to see me like weighing food and things like that. So my mindset's definitely shifted a lot from caring about being skinny to just wanting to glow up in a much more healthy, strong way. Like my motivation is to be able to carry on picking up Bonnie, and she shot up recently. So like I'm actually feeling like I need to do weights and feel strong instead of feeling skinny. And is that just showing my age at this point? Because I have never before, I think I might have just matured. Because before I was just like, I just want to look good and be skinny. Like I did not care about health or strength or my body. So maybe this is all just a bit about maturing and aging and nothing to do with being postpartum. But I know there's a lot of demand on me and my body, and I just want to be able to keep up and not burn out and keep up with my toddler. My last point on being nearly 3 years in is that it really does feel so different, and you forget about that newborn life so quickly. The thought of like breastfeeding or thinking about latch or tummy time or like all these words that were really important or felt really important at the time, it feels very long ago and very foreign. I think that's one reason why people go for that 2 under 2, so they don't go out of that phase. Personally, I really like soaking that in with Bon, and like that I can soak that up a second time round, you know. So I'm not someone that really, you know, lots of people don't enjoy that and want it over and done with. I'm not really one of those people. But yeah, it's weird how in terms of time, it's not that long ago. But when I hear people discussing weaning or anything now, like that just seems totally foreign. A big thing, again, is that I've spoken about a lot on this podcast is Bonnie's sleep. She's still a terrible sleeper. I didn't think it was possible. I thought by now they just sorted it out by themselves. But she makes her way into our bed every single night. I mean, often before I've even gone to bed myself, which I am trying to work at. I am trying this week actually to work on a bit more. But it also doesn't feel like this huge thing anymore in a way that it does in that like first year of life. I think when I was in the thick of all of that, whether I should sleep train or trying to sleep train, should I do this, should I do that? It felt huge, and it felt sort of like a a test of me as a mother and whether I was doing well, if I could like get my baby to sleep through the night, which now just seems like ridiculous. And, you know, if someone asked me about Bonnie's sleep now, it's just like, oh yeah, she didn't sleep, but I'm fine, you know, like I'm not here like totally, maybe I am here totally shattered all the time, but I'm used to it. Like it's absolutely fine. I was actually chasing her around with spoonfuls of porridge the other morning just to try and get some breakfast down her. And up popped in my head like some parenting expert who has said at some point, and I've obviously absorbed this, that children should be sat for their meals. Every single child should be able to sit for their meals. That's my one rule. I think this was like a child expert who's pretty lax. That was still her one rule. And so I'm thinking this as I'm chasing her around with spoonfuls of porridge. And then I just thought, like, it's not that deep. Like, we definitely don't feel like this in the first year postpartum, do we? And now that I'm nearly 3 years in, maybe this is the change. I'm just like, it's really not that deep. Do we see adults being chased around by their mummies to get them to eat their breakfast? Like, no, we don't. Do we see adults get into bed with their mummies and daddies every single night because they can't sleep without them? Like, no. So, yeah. So at this point, I'm trying to cherish those cuddles now, because I know it's not going to be long. We are out of this baby phase, and it's not going to go on forever. So that's kind of an insight into how I feel 3 years in. And also, I guess it's that much more chilled temperament that I hope to take into any potential future babies that the future might bring along. We'll see. So, what a ramble. That kind of concludes a little life update for you. I hope you enjoyed it. I'm not sure how long I'm going to take as a break, or whether I might sporadically just add in a new few bonus episodes now and again when I feel like it. But make sure that you're following so that you automatically get any episodes into your subs box. And in the meantime, follow nextofkin.ae on Instagram and TikTok, and my personal Instagram at emmacoulter.insta. Take care till next time.